Hey teacher mamas and anyone else who's popping in. In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 ways I use Google tools in my distance learning classroom. If we haven't met yet, my name is Natalie Priester and I teach middle school English language learners in the Inland Empire in Southern California. But for this video, what's important is that I'm also a Google Certified Innovator and I have trained teachers in using technology. I was an early adopter of Google tools and I now use everything very intentionally in my classroom to keep things simple. So I'm not like tech just for the sake of tech. I use it smartly in my classroom. I'm actually going to flip and show you on my computer how everything goes together. The tools I'm going to show you, before you like run off and go to them, just keep in mind that you need to make sure you're working within what your district wants you to be doing. So make sure you know all the rules and acceptable use policies and everything else. I will be sharing with you what I'm doing in my room, and then I'm hoping that it can inspire you or just kind of help you to see how it all goes together so you can implement these tools in your classroom in order to help more students. First tool I used is Google Docs. I put my syllabus in here. In the past, I have made one of those like cute one-pagers, but I wanted to add a lot more information. So this year I went back to a high school style syllabus a little bit more, but I made it a frequently asked questions format with the intention of my students being the audience. I added a lot on here. Now I'm really glad that I did all of this before I began doing anything else because I needed to mentally plan out what I would be doing with things like a routine week. I also went down here and I added in like behavior for synchronous versus asynchronous class because I needed to have these things ready to go. I put the fancy teacher stuff at the bottom, like the adult stuff. A tip for this is if you have bilingual students like I do, you can hit tools and then you can hit translate, choose your language. My students they all speak Spanish this year. Translate, and then it's not perfect Spanish, but it's a translated version. I normally translate this, then I ask an adult on campus to give it a bilingual adult to give it a once over for me. The second Google tool I used was Google Slides to put up my daily agenda, lesson plan sheet, basically whatever I would write on the board in my old classroom, I am putting it on here. Instead of doing daily, I did the whole week because we have this weird asynchronous, synchronous schedule and I was trying to keep it simple for my kids. I didn't go all crazy decorating it. I try to keep everything like basic and not colorful, so it's really plain. But if you see, we have live and non-live sessions in here. And then I have the numbers to match up with my Google Classroom assignments for everybody. I post this at the top of my Google Classroom, by the way, and then at the start of each class, I go in and I show it to my kids and I go over what we are going to do during the class session in the same way I would in a traditional classroom using my whiteboard. The third Google tool I'm using is my Google Classroom. This year I had the option to use Canvas or Google Classroom, and I decided to stay with Google Classroom because I wanted to keep it simple. I've used complex LMSs before, and I thought this year it would be best for my students and I to use something that was clean and easy because I don't want to spend a lot of time creating. I want to spend time teaching. So here's my classroom. I can't click around much, but I can show you like my classwork's all over here. And then I sort by topics by like week 1, and then I label each assignment in that so it's easier for the kids to find it. And I have to export their grades out to Infinite Campus. And then the numbers help me to keep track of things going back and forth. Something else I want to show you, I put my Meet link here so they can always find it. I hid everything on the feed so it wouldn't be so confusing for them. This is the big thing, people. Look, see this Meet link that comes in here? If you use this, you can't mute your students. I learned that the hard way the first week. Do not use that link. I know Google's rolling out some things to make it work better, but currently you can't mute kids. So if you have a kid who's in class and someone's like vacuuming in the background, you can't turn it off. And you also can't kick kids out from it. I don't really have the need to do that, but don't use that link. Instead, I put a link up here, and then the link I posted here, I actually created in my fourth tool, which is Google Calendar. And so to get a link that works and you can mute, in here when you create an event, you have the option to add a Meet. And that is the link that I used. So I just copied this Meet link and then I went back and I threw it in my classroom. This one allows you to mute. Use this one. Do not use the one in classroom. I'm also using my calendar to schedule individual appointments with students. And I create an event for each class period that's repeating for the semester, and I put the link to the Google Meet in there. I manually added my students in by copying their emails back out of Google Classroom. You can do that under the People tab. So this way, I'm hopefully going to train my kids to start using their calendar to look for when we have meetings, and I'm hoping they have their notifications on so it will ding and tell them when it's time to come to a synchronous or live class. Oh, by the way, over here, see this student meetings? I also have a tool on that too I can show you guys at the end of the video that's super cool and it's free. The 7th tool I'm using is Google Hangouts. Now, we have periods where we're supposed to be offering student support, and some of my colleagues are leaving their cameras on during this time, but I want to be able to grade and focus, and so instead I taught my students to use Google Hangouts if they need help. Now, over here, see, I moved my face. See down here, this is one of my colleagues, I had all the kids' names. Over here, you can just send messages back and forth. Like I could be like, hey, just testing this. And then my coworker Heather could send a message back. I can also send those back and forth with my students. I know a lot of teachers are teaching kids to write formal emails, but I want my students to be able to communicate with me in a less stressful environment, and just to be like, hey, I need help, the same way that they would if we were in class. If we were in class, I wouldn't expect them to write me a formal letter or give me a speech when they needed help. I expect them to say hey, teacher, help me. So they're allowed to do that in the Hangouts with me. I think my numbers are off. Don't. Just go with it, everybody. The 7th tool I used is Google Forms to collect information. I use something called Talking Points, which is like a translating texting tool with the parents, and I needed to be able to collect everybody's phone numbers and their parents' names. So I created a Google form, and then I posted that in Classroom as an assignment, and then it took the responses and I dumped them into a spreadsheet, and then I actually copy and pasted those and threw those into Talking Points. So my 8th tool is actually to go ahead and use Google Sheets. It's like a little spreadsheet, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it, and I use it for a ton of things. Like, I need to be able to email my counselors with schedule changes if kids test out of my class, and so instead of sending individual emails, I'm making a spreadsheet to share with them and share it with my colleagues so we can bulk send those. The 9th tool I'm using is YouTube. Now it's a different channel than this one, obviously, and I am posting a little video at the end of each day that summarizes what we did in class that day. I know some teachers are recording their full class sessions and posting those, but I'm doing a little quickie video for them to share what we went over in case kids are absent, or in case kids need to just watch it and see it for a second time, or be able to pause whatever I was teaching. So I'll click. See? So to get the link for my class, it's just me showing them what we did in class. I think it's easier if I do it afterwards, and then I like doing it afterwards too to make sure that I'm not accidentally sharing any student information. The 10th Google tool I used is a site. I wasn't going to do this. I was trying to use the teacher web page that they wanted us to use, but it just didn't. I needed a one spot to put all of my information for the parents. I needed one place with all the links, and so everybody can just peek in and see what's going on. So I made a quick Google site. It's really basic. So I have a link for them to schedule a meeting with me. Oh, that's the thing I'm going to show you. I have a thing for translation using Talking Points, parent scheduling, the email, and then I embedded my syllabus and I embedded my slides so that they just keep updating all the time and I don't have to click them again. In fact, I don't even make it I don't have to touch this at all. It just keeps going, because if you click here, it takes you right to that YouTube playlist. So everything is here, quick and simple. So the last thing I want to share with you is a bonus. So I guess this is 11 things. This tool is not quite Google, but it's Google compatible, and it's called Calendly. And with this, it allows students to schedule an appointment with me. So I have 2 of these set up. One is for parents to schedule a 15-minute meeting, and one is for students to schedule a 6-minute meeting. I'm having a hard time getting them to show up, but they're in 7th grade. We're gonna get there. And so all they have to do is they just click in here, and then they pick a time slot, and then it asks a question. And for parents, I even have the question do you need a translator? They schedule it, it goes on both of our calendars, and it sets up a Meet link for the meeting. It's fabulous. Again, it's called Calendly and it's free. You should totally use it.
because it will save you some time, because I know we're giving a lot of support. And if you're like me, I'd rather just have a meeting than sit there and write out directions a million times.
Okay, that's all. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments down below, and do all the like, subscribing, and everything. If you are a teacher mama, make sure you sign up to get my teacher mama emails, where I just send out things when I make them to you, and maybe a little bit of like anecdotes about what's going on in my life. And oh, if you want to keep up with my daily life, you can also follow me on Instagram, because I share a lot of just teacher mama stuff. Okay, good luck with your remote teaching, distance learning, and everything else. And remember to keep it simple. Bye.